Welcome to this explainer on Microsoft 365 security. So if you're a business leader navigating Microsoft 365 and Azure Entra ID, you've definitely seen those official security checklists. You know the ones. They're massive, highly technical, and honestly, a little terrifying. Most of them have well over 200 individual configuration points. But today, we're going to change the game. We're transforming that overwhelming, dense checklist into a clear, executive-level, strategic blueprint. We are skipping the jargon and zeroing in on exactly what moves the needle for your organization.
Which brings us to a really serious question. Does just checking boxes on a list actually make you secure? Well, no. We usually assume that if we just systematically work our way down a to-do list, we're totally safe. But as the source material for this explainer points out, that mindset is a trap. It creates this really dangerous false sense of security. In fact, if you implement a checklist item the wrong way, you might literally decrease your defenses. It's never just about checking the box, it's about the strategy behind the box.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've taken that 200-point monster and organized it into 5 logical strategic buckets. The checklist illusion, securing the core, protecting assets, hardening the perimeter, and finally, the ongoing operation.
Section 1. The checklist illusion. Why box taking fails and planning wins.
Let's look at a classic example, multi-factor authentication. Setting up MFAs sounds like the ultimate quick win, right? Actually, scratch that. The author makes a brilliant, kind of scary point here. Just Google bypass Microsoft 365 MFA and you'll see exactly how fast basic, out-of-the-box setups completely fall apart. Easy, thoughtless solutions just get bypassed. That means every single item on your agenda needs actual serious thought. So how do we avoid that trap? Well, the source recommends a very specific structured process. Step 1, you have to do the research and plan it out. Step 2, run it by a small test group. And there's a great pro tip from the author here. Always include a safe test account of your own in that group. Finally, step 3, roll it out in small batches. Please avoid the temptation to flip the switch on everything all at once. If you do that and all your business services suddenly stop, you're going to have a miserable time trying to figure out which of the 50 changes actually broke the system.
All right, moving on to Section 2, securing the core. Because these days, your identity is the modern perimeter.
Think about it. The old-school corporate network wall, that's gone. Your user identities are your front door now. And this brilliantly illustrates why doing it right matters. Look at this contrast. On the weak side, you've got SMS text messages for your MFA. The source straight up notes that kids can intercept those with basic phishing tools. On the strong side, you have physical hardware, things like a YubiKey, FIDO2, or certificate-based authentication. Does it take more money and effort to buy and configure primary and backup keys for your team? For sure, but it makes it practically impossible for a hacker to compromise that account.
And to lock that core down even tighter, we bring in conditional access policies. You can think of this as the ultimate VIP bouncer for your business data. This bouncer doesn't just glance at your ID. They check to see if you're logging in from a normal, safe location. They check if you're using a compliant, company-issued laptop. If anything looks even slightly off, boom, the bouncer steps in, demands extra proof, or just completely denies you entry.
So wrapping up this core identity piece, the must-do items are: kill off any outdated legacy authentication, enforce strong password policies, and ideally, just move entirely to passwordless options like Windows Hello. But I really want you to focus on that 4th bullet, daily sign-in monitoring. You need an assigned expert looking for weird anomalies first thing every single morning. Because if you aren't doing a daily check and a breach happens today, how on earth would you even know?
Section 3. Protecting assets. Defending data, apps, and email.
Now that our core identity is locked down, we look outward to protect the actual goods, your proprietary data and apps. You've probably heard the term OAuth 2.0 thrown around in tech meetings. To put it simply, it's exactly like handing a valet key to a third-party app. That valet key lets the app park the car, sure, but it absolutely does not open the glove box, the trunk, and it certainly isn't the master key to your front door. It grants secure access with strictly limited permissions, completely bypassing the massive risk of using hard-coded master passwords.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it cuts through all the overwhelming Microsoft ecosystem noise. It maps your actual business goals right to the specific tool you need. You want to stop data from leaking out? Turn on Data Loss Prevention, or DLP. Need to crush email phishing? Deploy Defender for Office 365. Tired of attackers spoofing your company's email address? You have to set up DKIM, DMARC, and SPF protocols. It's all about perfectly matching the business risk to the technical solution.
To finish up asset protection, make sure all your apps are officially registered in Azure AD and that you're using single sign-on. You also need to tag your data with sensitivity labels so the system knows what's actually important. And here's a massive takeaway from the checklist. Your most highly sensitive files need to be encrypted all the time, at rest and in transit. By using third-party encryption tools like Boxcryptor or even built-in passwords, you guarantee that even if the file gets stolen, it's just total gibberish to the attacker.
Section 4. Hardening the perimeter. Securing devices and networks. This is all about the physical hardware your employees are using to connect to your corporate data, whether they're sitting in the office or working from a coffee shop. The absolute bedrock here is mobile device management, or MDM, using platforms like Microsoft Intune. When you enroll devices into an MDM, it lets you set strict baseline compliance rules. Basically, it guarantees that only managed, updated, and completely safe hardware is allowed anywhere near your network. If a phone or laptop doesn't meet the standard, it's blocked, period. Beyond MDM, hardening the edge means throwing a few more heavy hitters into the mix. BitLocker encryption on every single drive is non-negotiable. That way, a laptop left in an Uber doesn't turn into a headline-making data breach. You need your firewalls, your secure VPNs, and Azure Bastion for remote access. But let me highlight one thing: endpoint detection and response. The source explicitly recommends Microsoft Defender for Endpoint P2. Yes, it's a separate license, but investing in top-tier endpoint protection to stop complex, modern attacks is absolutely well worth the cost.
Which brings us to Section 5, the ongoing operation. Because security is a culture, not a destination. Look, true security is a daily grind. You can't just set it up once and forget it exists. This entire daily operation has to be built on the Zero Trust security model. Zero Trust is exactly what it sounds like, a philosophy where trust is literally never assumed. It doesn't matter if the user is sitting inside your heavily guarded corporate HQ or if they just authenticated 20 minutes ago. Every single time they request access to something, they are thoroughly verified again.
And to actually pull this off, you need a rhythm. The source article points out that while a lot of frameworks demand a massive, comprehensive security audit every year, that's just not realistic for most companies. Instead, they recommend doing one huge, painful audit right at the start. After that, just do short, focused yearly reviews. But the real magic is in continuous logging and monitoring. Your defense systems have to be tuned to instantly spot things like Bob in accounting, suddenly running suspicious VBA or PowerShell scripts that he has zero business running.
So, the crucial point is this. You can buy all the fancy enterprise licenses, set up the beefiest firewalls, and hand out physical security keys, but it literally won't matter if you ignore the human element. Human error is still the #1 driver of security incidents. You absolutely must cultivate a security-conscious culture and provide continuous training. Otherwise, all that expensive tech is basically useless.
Which brings us to our final and maybe most important point. A breach is going to happen. It's just reality. And if your organization has more than 500 employees, the checklist lays out a very clear mandate. You need to be testing your digital forensics and incident response plans twice a year. So I want to leave you with a question to take back to your next executive meeting. When was the last time you actually tested your incident response plan? Are you truly prepared for the worst, or are you just hiding behind the false comfort of a checked box? Thanks for joining us for this explainer. Stay secure out there.